All right. Hey, everybody. Ryan Costello here, CEO of Event Farm. And I have a special guest with me today, Dave Brown from Edelman. We are here to kick off or to do a session for the Future of Event Marketing series, where we talk about exactly what it sounds like, the future of event marketing. Known Dave for quite a while, and he has an incredible career in event marketing space. So we're excited to have him. Dave, it's great to see you from all the way across the country here in New York.
Yeah, man. Greetings from Brooklyn.
Awesome. Great. Thanks for taking the time. All right. So, Dave, I got a series of about 10 or 11 questions that should be hopefully meatballs for you so you can head them out of the park. But I think the listeners here and the audience here are inspired to hear about the way we think about event marketing, because I think, we're trying to think about it differently. I've seen your work and know you're thinking about it differently, and we're trying to do that here at Event Farm too. But I think the audience is really trying to hear from our perspective of why we think differently. So let me start off with one that I think should be pretty straightforward. But if people check out your LinkedIn profile and just your career, they'll see a lot of work on mainly the digital side. And in fact, I think a lot of your work technically right now is under the digital title at Edelman. But I know that there's also a lot of intersection of the non-digital to physical, the offline in your work. Can you just talk to us a little bit about how that manifests and why it's important? I guess the bridge or the intersection between offline and online.
Yeah, definitely. When we approach it, when we start talking about experiences and designing experiences, which is really what we're in the business of, those experiences can happen offline and they're magical. They can happen entirely online and they're also magical. And then there's sort of that uber magic that happens at that sweet spot when you combine the offline and the online. And it's just a really fun sandbox to play in. And it's sort of the direction where we feel like everything's going, right? I mean, the one device that's in everyone's pocket probably while they're watching this right now, if they're not using it to watch this, is a mobile phone. That's a great example of just like right there, a touch screen that we're just obsessed with already. It's become part of our culture. And so, I love working with a really great group of designers and creative thinkers and technologists where we start thinking about, what can we do that sort of bridges the online and offline, where you don't even realize that you're using technology. And that's sort of like the phone. Like we forget that it's sometimes a piece of technology. And as an experienced designer, if we do our jobs really well, we get to sort of blend those two to a really beautiful experience that essentially connects on an emotional level and forces someone to an action of some sort. And that action could be a conversation. It could be, Instagramming something and pushing it out to your social feeds. It could be blending that physical digital through feeling, almost like a change of perception of a brand, maybe if it's a brand experience, or it's just brand loyalty, So we're obsessed with that sort of intersection of those two.
And do you think that corporate America or your clients or any brands, do you think they get it? Do you think that they value this, or are you pushing it forward and convincing them that this is a smart approach to, event marketing?
I think they get it. I mean, I think the ones who don't get it are fucked, to be honest. The ones who totally get it are ones that recognize that this is where things are heading and you need to embrace it. We definitely play, education plays a huge role in what we do, and it will always be that, both for us as learning, how to make sense of these technologies in thoughtful ways, but also educating our clients on both best practices. And, part of our jobs is to be quick and get ahead of this game. And so, we're really big fans of speed and getting in there and, making something, playing with it, breaking it, testing it again, iterating it, and then getting it out there. So it's something that we feel really good about. But I do think it's an ongoing game of education and to our clients, but the ones who get it are really excited about where this is going. And they're willing to take risks. And those are the ones that we're seeing the best results with so far.
And obviously the most fun too, right?
Oh, hell yeah. This whole thing is fun, right? It's an adventure. It's almost like, it feels like we're driving like a Ferrari down a freeway and we're being asked to change the tires without stopping. And I mean, what other industry do we get to play in where we get to just be like complete nerds, and designing experiences at such a, personal level, but also at a macro level.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. I got another one for you. I got a quote from you here. The race for consumer attention is more competitive than ever. So how is that changing the way that you try to reach audiences? How does it not just become a bunch of creatives just trying to one up each other? And I think that, you've worked in agencies of all, different kinds and types and sizes and those kind of things. How does this not just become that rat race of like, I got you there, one up in you, and really, I guess, consumer attention, how do you win the game?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, there's no doubt that, everyone's racing for consumer attention. And, we're competing with things like nonstop notifications, glances, every 2 seconds I'm looking at my phone probably about what's, the latest notification, Apple Watches with notifications and glances. And, it's an exciting time, but in order, we need to break through the din of all this, noise and clutter. And the only way to do that, well, not the only way to do that, but one of the most beautiful ways to do that is through thoughtful experiences. And that's where experiential marketing and event marketing comes in so nicely, is when you're really thoughtful about designing an experience, when you place the experience and the customer experience at the center of that entire event, suddenly that changes your outlook on things, and you're able to provide a more human touch point. And that human touch point is the most magical thing around. I mean, there's nothing more fundamental than an experience of all touch points. And so, that is what is going to cut through the din of the craziness. And that's what's so exciting about getting to work in event marketing and experiential marketing.
I think that's why we like each other, Dave. We're cut from the same mold on that one for sure. No, that's a great answer. Okay, so your last job was at the experiential marketing agency MKG. Now you're over at Edelman, obviously. What's changed with the conversation with clients? Has anything changed? Is it a different lens? Is it the same? Tell me the differences between your last gig and this one.
Oh, sure. So MKG is a really awesome company. I mean, they're really incredible at experiential marketing. They have an event production background. They've got full-time, fabricators in their own warehouses, and so they can do soup to nuts. It's incredible. What's the big difference in moving to a shop like Edelman? Edelman's roots are in PR and communications marketing, and so what's really exciting coming in as a creative and specifically an experienced designer is if I can help, and my team and I work on developing an experience, whether it's an event, if it's a launch for a product or a conference, or it could be an activation where we block out something at a sponsorship. But what's really exciting about that is we can then plug into an existing machine, which is the Edelman PR machine.
Right.
We've got communications down pat, and I can come in there as a creative and work side by side with existing researchers, planners, analytics team, and then we've got bioscience and health and corporate and public affairs, existing digital players who are incredible at community management and social media trends. And so I'm just building one piece that fits into a much larger puzzle at Edelman. And then when you think about Edelman in terms of a global network, and thinking about the industry and the trends that are happening within our industry, Ryan, where we think about events and how geography plays a role, how cultures play a role, how different laws and technologies play a role. This is where it gets really exciting, being a part of a family-owned independent agency that's got that global footprint.
Wow. I didn't even know that. I mean, God, that sounds inspiring just hearing it from you. I didn't realize it. I know you went over there, and I knew you were doing new stuff and had bigger, more resources and just interesting challenges. But that sounds, incredible when you kind of pull. It's basically the whole package, the end-to-end solution here that you're talking about. Are clients demanding more today? And like, what are the trends? What are they asking for? What are you getting from them?
I think it's an interesting time. We're seeing definitely, a lot of dollars being taken out of, traditional spends and traditional budgets and being moved into sort of like I guess they're experimenting, right? They're experimenting with folks like you and I on putting a lot more dollars on experiences. And there's a lot more questions where we're getting challenged to how do you measure an experience? If I were to tell you that, I love my mother, and you said, prove it, there's only certain ways I can show you from an ROI standpoint. And Somebody probably a lot smarter than me recently was speaking at the Cannes Film Festival in France that I went to for the first time. And I remember hearing him say that we're moving away from return on investment and we're moving towards return on attention. And I thought that was really interesting in our field about, that's really the business that we are in. We're trying to capture people's attention in a fucking meaningful way that hits on an emotional level that then drives them to an action. And that's really the challenge that I think a lot of clients are now starting to push on us and others in this industry that are in the event marketing industry. Is it's not good enough to just throw an event. It's not good enough just to say, oh, I've got this crazy new VR technology that you should really check out. We need to be solving, thinking about creative ways to use technology to solve, our clients' emerging business challenges. And this industry is changing, and I say emerging because it is emerging. It's evolving and emerging. And so those are sort of the challenges that we're faced with now, and what an exciting time to play in our space and sort of tackle these huge challenges.
I mean, I'm just excited that you're hearing that in the market, because, I think a lot of times at Event Farm, we're not a traditional agency. We're a software company first. And we start to blend into that. And we, sometimes struggle trying to convince our clients to take the next conversation, exactly what you said, ROI versus, attention. That's really the heart of what we do as event marketers. So I'm really glad. It's encouraging to hear, I think, that people are on our wavelength.
I think what's challenging for us is we're still not sure if we're speaking to the right buyers. And because I think the roles even of like the traditional CMOs roles are changing. And so while, you and I would probably love to geek out with a CMO about, let's talk about haptic technology and how this is going to revolutionize the way we communicate through touch, or let's really be thoughtful about VR instead of just rushing to do something with VR or AR. Let's be thoughtful and talk about why we're doing this and the type of experience we want and the goals that we want to hit against. So I think we're all still trying to figure it out is really the end game here. Right.
And so, we're on kind of an ROI, I guess, thread right now. How are people measuring ROI right now? I mean, this is a hard question. This is actually the part of the interview where it becomes less meatball and less softball. We struggle with it. I know clients, when we ask them what they want from an experience, they sometimes don't know. And in fact, a lot of times don't know. So I'm assuming there's a lot of prying out of your clients, and just when you're trying to get these, trying to dig in with them on figuring out how they possibly could even assess a return on investment. But what's your reaction to just how do we start? How are we measuring ROI today, and are we doing it right?
Yeah, I mean, that's something I think we're all going to be trying to help each other out in answering. I think it all starts with, what is the ultimate goal for that brand? What are you trying to achieve? What's the voice and tone you're trying to take with your consumers? And to let them know that it's okay to try things. Let's keep trying things until we get it right, because that's what the consumers are expecting. And we talk to our clients about, when they come at us and say, hey, either if they have an idea, like we want to have a presence at Lollapalooza and here's what we want to do, or hey, what should our presence be within our footprint at Lollapalooza? We say, okay, great. What are we trying to do here? And then they might come back and say, our end game is really about social engagement. And oftentimes that's really where our focus is thinking about building physical environments or physical products that are tied to social or that help elevate the social engagement. And so those are metrics that we can look at. We have a baseline before we go into an event like this where we're looking at all of their channels. And then we know we can add things on like paid media that can target the footprint of a festival like Lollapalooza, look at the nature of the conversation, see how many people are converting, whether it's members or just the different keywords that they're looking for. If we're looking to get them to download something or purchase something, that's another thing we can look at. How many downloads of an app did they have beforehand, afterhand? So I think we're going to get smarter and smarter. And when you start adding in things like, GPS and beacons, it's only going to be more exciting about actual data that we can mine, that we can scour through and say, oh, actually there's a relationship to the people that came to our activations or had our products in hands that are then now inside this retail store or having this particular experience. And that's when you start really showing some solid metrics that prove the power of an experience.
Absolutely. So, Dave, what brands are doing a good job in this space right now, do you think? Any brands come to mind, whether they're your clients or others? Who's winning the event experiential marketing game right now?
I think there's quite a few brands. Like I think the obvious ones are the Heinekens and Nikes and Samsungs are all doing some really compelling stuff. I think the startup space, like Warby Parker, who started as an online brand and now have a real interesting physical footprint that's nationwide, are still tapped into grassroots efforts with their experiential being at the core, are doing phenomenal stuff. When I look at what airline industry is doing, I think Delta's doing some really exciting things. JetBlue's doing some incredibly exciting things from what feels like a more human sort of leading first with like, we give a shit about you sort of mentality. We really appreciate it as a consumer. So to me, it's just really exciting. I love being, I'm a geek for smart experiential advertising and marketing. And that can happen when I go to an airport and I look through every little detail, from booking the flight to when I get onto the line at the TSA, all the way to the flight ends. Or it could be, I really always am big at looking at sports and music sponsorship space. I think there's a lot of really interesting things happening there, and Heineken's, I think, killing it in that space right now with their soccer efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned the airlines too. We're similar more than we know. I mean, I look at the world the same way you do. I go through the world analyzing, which sounds a little bit scary because it gets probably too analytical at some points, but I analyze my experiences all the time. And so, airlines is a great one because that's a very, especially for us, we're traveling a lot and we have to, and it's a necessity. But can it be a luxury? Can it be an enjoyment, part of our day? And what is brand and what experience mean to that? Like I was actually, I don't fly Southwest too much just because the routes for me, but I loved their new branding. I thought it was kind of a nice touch up. And what do you think about the Southwest rebrand?
I think it's cool. It makes me just think, I'm a huge design geek, and, I'm the guy that when a movie credits start, I'm like, critiquing the font treatment that they're using and the animations that they're using, and drives my wife nuts. But, it's just baffling to me that there's still so millions and millions of companies that just don't give a shit about design, like good design. And it's embarrassing. Like as a consumer, I'm embarrassed for them because it's so obvious and appreciated as a consumer or as just an industry professional when you see a brand that nails it. Some of the best brands that I love all place design at, and UX at the forefront of everything they do. And it's not rocket science, and it just kills me that there's so many shitty fucking brands out there that just couldn't care about their packaging or their website or their Twitter feed or, just unbelievable to me. Because, there's a woman at Airbnb who's now running experiential, and she's fucking brilliant. And I read a quote from her recently that talked about her position and was like, how are you, liking your new position there? And she's like, what hit me is that we're not just designing experiences here. We're also designing a new way to work, and we're designing a new way of management. And we're, it just kept going and going. And she's so right. It's like, it's what you're doing at Event Farm, what we're doing at Edelman is not just within our specialties of design on experiential and event marketing, but the way we even approach our hiring and the way we manage our teams, it's all about, that specialty and compassion and humbleness that we have around design.
I completely agree. I mean, every day I'm like, this is what we do. I can't wait to make our product look amazing. This is what we've been working so hard for. And not to diminish the role that, like in a software company, what a back-end team does, right? We at Event Farm are thinking all the time, like, come on, guys, build us the foundation so we can make the beautiful house, and it's like, finally, we can have the French doors and the doorknobs will look great. And look at this stove that we got. It's beautiful. So completely agree, Dave. All right, we got time for one more that I think is very relevant to our listeners in the world we work in. And I think it's a challenge that our mutual clients face. So how B2B companies, how do they use events successfully? And I think we're asking specifically on the B2B side just because I think it's a little bit more obvious. Look at the names that you rattled off that are doing it well. Those are pretty much all consumer-facing brands. So how does a B2B company use event and experiential marketing to be successful?
I think one of the best ways that from a B2B standpoint is employee engagement. That's where, in my mind, event marketing and experiential and really good experience design, user experience comes in crucial. So many employees out there fucking hate their jobs, and yet so many companies offer really good things like great benefits that employees aren't even taking advantage of. And this is where like reinventing conferences, reinventing what it means to like throw an event at your company, reinventing what it means to treat your employees a certain way, and really taking a step back and completely disrupting, I think, the B2B experience from an experiential standpoint is crucial. And I know that we're talking right now to a lot of companies that come to us for that. And it's a challenge, but it's also really exciting because we think about, okay, here we are working, what can we do better from these learnings that we're trying to do and offer for somebody else? So we're trying to tackle it and sort of break down sort of the, stereotypical like traditionalness of these events that have gone on in the past, and really, humanize them and make them feel a bit more personal and fun, and bring some more engagement to these events, and throwing couches in there and throwing, technology such as your platform, like, that could be like an NFC driven, platform that we use to just like make lines go quicker, to get better data, to understand who our customers are, how they're using it, to provide better engagement, bringing in a mix of like, comedians with professionals, and just like fusing this almost TED-like atmosphere. I think that's where it's really exciting for us as experienced designers in thinking about a B2B experience.
Awesome. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We need to get you down to the new media party that we do in DC for White House Correspondents' Dinner weekend, because that's really become our outlet to do that. And a lot of times we scratch our head and say, why are we doing this? And I think everything you just said is why we do it, and it's just in us. We didn't realize it. But anyway, Dave, I know you got to run. Thank you so much, Dave Brown, living legend and awesome experiential marketer in New York. And Dave, I hope to see you out there sometime soon.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.